What's going on, y'all? Clutchexe, we're back in the building. We're talking about just C2s in Genshin and why I think that C2 is probably a better stopping point for a lot or most players, especially the free-to-play players, than going for C6s at this point. The first point I'd say is C6, there just isn't content in the game worth paying for a C6. Now, if you're willing to save for a C6, I think that that is admirable and something that I hope that I can do one day. I would love to save up my Primo Gems and go for Sinnoh C6, but realistically, I think that I'd prefer to just, I already have C2 now. I'd prefer to just wait and get like characters like the Archons, Focalors, that type of thing, or maybe save up 200 or 180 pulls and then just leave those pulls aside for Archons and then go for characters, constellations with pulls that I get past that. I think that that is just a crazy, amazing endeavor to like go on, and I really would love to see people who do that with their account. I feel like one of the best things to do if you are content with the characters you have already is to pull for their constellations instead of pulling for new characters. I personally find it very exhausting to go and get their new characters materials and stuff like that, when by the time you actually level them up, you end up saying that you don't like certain characters and you end up using the same characters over and over again. So right now, I feel like personally with my account that I use mostly Sinnoh, I use mostly Xiao, I still use Diluc a lot, and Arataki Itto, and I really don't mix around with too many other characters. Sometimes I use Ayato, sometimes I still use my Raiden Shogun, but like other than that, I mostly stick to those characters. So one thing that I was thinking is just like, I think it'd be best to vertically go through these accounts, but the reason why I wouldn't recommend going for C6 is because I think the C2s ultimately give you so much power already. If you look at a character like Shenhe, her C1 and her C2 gives her so much damage. One thing you see very commonly with these characters, C1s, is that they are giving you these extra stacks on your skill. What that does is it allows you to build so much more energy with these characters, and that energy is definitely used very good. I think that's probably the best thing, especially with characters like Yelan, Shenhe. That energy is very useful for getting that burst back up, and then with the C2, especially for a character like Shenhe, it keeps your burst up longer, so you don't really have to like worry about what you're going to do in the meantime, I think Shenhe has a 20-second cooldown on her burst, and then with the C2 she has the 18-second duration, so it's just like, it just makes everything a little more smooth, keeps that damage up, those ticks rates higher, and like, realistically it's really good. Another character who I think has the third best C2 in the game, it's Kazuha. Kazuha's C1 allows you to get your skill, and then after you do your burst, it resets your skill, so then you can do another skill again, keeps your energy up really high. And then that C2 is just, gives you that 200 elemental mastery while you're in the burst. So many characters can take advantage of that. Melt teams, vape teams, even Sinnoh teams, like, man, that's one of the best C2s in the game. There are characters who I find have a little underwhelming C2s. The most notable is Xiao. Xiao C2 doesn't really offer anything to his game. And then even if you look at Xiao, something like Xiao C6, it doesn't really, like, Xiao C6 is cool on multiple enemies, but if you're facing a single boss, you can't even use Xiao C6 in that, so that's just something to think about. Realistically, there are also characters like Dea, who at C0 they're not really interesting, but like Dea's C2, I think Dea's C2 is one of the better C2s in the game. Like Dea's C1 really gives her some damage, and it really makes her seem like a lot more fun. I don't have it myself, but I think, at least her being on the standard banner, I look forward to maybe one day getting some constellations for it. Now, you guys already know the best number 1 and number 2 C2s in the game. I don't even know where to put them. I think I'd maybe put Nahida at number 2. Her C2 is one of the strongest. Like I said in my other video, I think it's one of the best investments you can get onto your account if you are not looking for new characters and you're looking to just vertically progress some of the characters you want. It'd be really good on, Nilou teams. It's really good on spread teams, really good on quicken teams. So Nahida's C2 is one of the best investments you can go for realistically. And then the number 1 C2 in the game, I'd say, is probably Raiden Shogun. Raiden Shogun's C2 is just extremely cracked, lets her deal so much more damage, and trivialize a lot of the game. You could go for Raiden Shogun C6, but I feel like C2 is just like really where it caps out and where you'd want to stay. There are also C2s like Arataki Ito. He has a lot of damage already in his kit, so what his constellations do early on is make it easier to use his kit, gives you energy, stuff like that I feel like is really necessary for the game. Now some characters have weaker C2s, like I find that Venti's constellations aren't really super interesting. Zhongli's constellations make playing Zhongli easier, but Zhongli's already such an easy character to play, I don't really think that they're worth it. Like realistically, when I play Zhongli, especially in Spiral Abyss content, I don't even use his burst. So like I guess you could use his burst if you had his constellations and then get that shield and you wouldn't have to spend the extra 2 seconds to just pop his shield. But I don't really know if that is worth your Freemo gems. If you're willing to pay, you're willing to pay. But I don't, you know, on this channel, I definitely recommend staying as free to play as possible whenever possible. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about constellations, if you are still going to be going for C6s or maybe saving for C6s, which I highly I think that is so admirable, or if you just are content with staying at C2s. Like there are a bunch of characters who I think have enough power at C2 to make you want to stay there for your vertical progression and then move on to another character and save. So yeah, definitely leave a comment, a like, and a follow on the channel and let me know where your head is at. Thank you so much for watching. Clutchexe,